Hey, what's up, folks? Lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers here, along with fellow Lifetime Longhorn, the young prodigy CJ Vogel, here for your game week preview. And yes, ladies and gentlemen, talking about the Longhorns continuing their run in the college football playoff, this time up against the Big 12 champion, Arizona State Sun Devils. So you actually have the back-to-back Big 12 champs going up against each other. Nice little storyline there. And last game, obviously, Longhorns got a chance to take care of the ACC champions. They continue to take care of business. They'll be able to check all those Power Four champions off the list there. All right, CJ, we're going to break it down and get into it. Of course, this game week preview brought to you by our good friends over at Duck Camp. We'll give you a great message about Duck Camp here in just a sec, but thank you to duckcamp.com. Go check out all of their fantastic products over at duckcamp.com for their new fall selection. All right, we'll dive into it, get into all the X's and O's and the Jimmies and the Joes. But just give me a brief overview, CJ, your thoughts on this matchup, Texas versus Arizona State. A lot of Longhorn fans are confident the Vegas line reflects that.
Yeah, I think they should be pretty confident as well. Look, let's start with this. Arizona State, one of the hotter teams in all of the country, right? No pun towards the Sun Devil itself, but, you look at what they've been able to do over their last 7 or 8 games. It's been do or die for them, right? They've needed to win out, as Texas needed to do last year. For the Big 12 championship, they had to do very much the same, and they put an absolute whooping down on Iowa State in that Big 12 championship game, one in which got ugly very quickly. And that's kind of been a theme for many of the Texas wins this year, Rod, where it feels like they score 21 or 24 or something in that range over the span of about 6 minutes, right? You looked at that Iowa State game and it was 10-10, and then you look back and it's 38-10 in about 7 or 8 minutes of actual game time. They can score quickly, and it's even beyond just Cam Skattebo, something that I think Texas fans should certainly be wary about. However, and we'll talk about this here in a sec, where do they go offensively without Jordan Tyson? That's going to be big through the air.
Yeah, can't wait to get into it because I did some research here, and honestly, the more research I did on some of the other weapons surrounding Skattebo, I actually think they're going to come out. And I think they're going to come out kind of guns a-blazing against Texas. Give them everything they got early. We'll talk about that. But first, let's thank our friends over at Duck Camp at duckcamp.com for sponsoring our game week preview. Duck Camp produces premium outdoor goods for the outdoor spirit in all of us, each and every one of us. Duck Camp is dedicated to providing the best outdoor goods so you can outdoor good, whether you're an avid hunter or fisherman, or you're like me and you prefer to hang out around the campsite, the camaraderie of the campfire. Duck Camp is a brand that understands the culture of outdoor living and the good times and good friends that come along with living that outdoor lifestyle. And I can tell you right now, listen, I'm not really an outdoorsman, but I got a lot of Duck Camp gear now. Got about 6 pieces. I wear them out. They're fantastic. Great quality material. My wife is a little bit jealous. She's tried to steal a couple of hoodies from me. But trust me, folks, go over check it out. They got a color that's really close to burnt orange. It's probably as close as you can get without getting a cease and desist letter from the University of Texas. Really good stuff over there at Duck Camp. So check it out. And also, they're actually sponsoring all of our live shows this week as we get ready for our college football playoff matchup against the Arizona State Sun Devils. They're sponsoring all of our live coverage of our playoff preview week here. So we appreciate Duck Camp being a part of the On Texas football family. All right, let's dive into it. I want to start with that Arizona State Sun Devils offense because that's where I think a lot of the storylines are for him. And Skattebo is where you start. I mean, and this young man, there's no doubt he's impressive. He's got over 1,500 rushing yards. What I love about him, you look at 69% of his rushing yards. This is freaky. 69%, over 1,000 of his rushing yards are after contact.
Wow.
He's averaging over 4 yards after contact per carry. So of his 5 point, right now, I think he averaged like 5.9 yards per carry, 4.1 over 4 points after contact. And he's not that big. I expected him to be bigger when you start looking at the stats, and then when you look at the way they utilize him and deploy him with a lot of power concepts. But he's not that big. He's about 5'11", about 215 and 220. But he runs with a really effective downhill running style that comes that offense. And here's a stat that was intriguing. Now, usually Kenny Dillingham's offense is pretty balanced running wise. They balance things out, a lot of variety in the running game. That smash mouth spread, the concepts from the Malzahn and Mike Norvell, which have been heavy influences on Kenny Dillingham and his offensive philosophy. How about this, though? If you go look at the last 2 games, all right, they've run, according to Pro Football Focus, 83% gap scheme concepts as opposed to zone scheme concepts. The last 3 games, that number is 70%. Now, on the season, they're about a 58.9% power gap scheme. But in the last 3 games, last 2 games, and during this run, this 6-game run, they've increased that to 70% during the 6-game run and 83% the last 2 games. I'm not sure if that's going to be up against Texas, but that's where they're trending, and they're running right down your throat.
Yeah, I do wonder how much success they will have against a 325-pound Alfred Collins, a 335-pound Bill Norton. You talk about how effective Vernon Broughton's been at 310 pounds. Look, that's some big guys that they're going to have to, run right at. And can you do that if you're Arizona State? Look, I don't know, but what I do know is, to your point, Rod, Cam Skattebo, one of the best running backs in all of the country, currently sits 5th in rushing yards of any running back in 2024 as well. The one thing I learned from Kenny Dillingham when listening to him speak during the joint press conference on Monday, he spoke about contact balance. And what that means is when you are contacted, when you're hit by an opposing defender, it's very difficult for you to fall or for you to go down off of that initial contact. And I think when you watch Cam Skattebo, that's the number one thing that you see, right? You mentioned the yards after contact. You talk about the missed tackles forced. He's really good at all of it, and it feels natural to him because a lot of these guys, whether it be arm tackles or guys just bouncing off of them, that 5'11" frame is very compact, and he's able to go. I think it's really interesting. We've talked about the Texas running game and it really getting going over the last 3 or 4 games, maybe without that Georgia SEC championship game. If you look at what they've been able to do against number 14 BYU, on the road at Arizona, and against Iowa State, number 16 in the Big 12 championship game, Cam Skattebo rushed for 147, 177, and 170.
Yeah.
Rod, you talk about that gap power game.
Yeah.
Listen, whatever it is, they figured it out. Because if you're getting 150 yards a game from your starting back, yeah, you're doing something right.
Yeah, and you're right against Iowa State. I mean, we know that Iowa State defense is to be respected. John Haycock's is one of the best defensive minds out there. You don't just run it down Iowa State's throat, and that's basically what they've been able to do. The forced missed tackles, 92 of them according to Pro Football Focus. He's just an old school kind of workhorse back. You don't see those guys like that anymore. No. And they love to run pistol. And there's a lot of variety in their personal groupings. They'll run 12. I've seen with an extra offensive lineman out there. I've seen them put an O-lineman in the backfield as a makeshift fullback. They got 2 sets because from that Norvell offense, they love 2 back sets. They'll throw out another back out there. They're going to give it to Skattebo, but they're still going to throw another back out there, just kind of throw out the angles and force Texas to adjust. I wouldn't play a little bit more 40 personnel in this matchup. You could, just because. And we'll talk about this because Skattebo is to be respected. There's no doubt. That's number one. You got to stop it because he's also their leading receiver because they lost Jordan Tyson. So he's also now the leading receiver, which is the whole, I think, formula is about, hey, can you take Skattebo out of the mix, take him out of the equation, and force him to beat you some other way? And I wonder if Texas will look at that and go, all right, well, how about our 40 personnel package? Our 3 D tackles out there. And they want to run power gap schemes. Let's see if they can run it at 3 D tackles, 3 big bodies. And we put those, either you go penny set, and a penny set is basically 3 down with 2 overhang edges out there. Then you put a 1 linebacker in the middle, or you can go old school 3-4 where they put those 2 overhangs, 3 D tackles like they did against Michigan, and then have the 2 linebackers, off-ball linebackers up top. I wouldn't doubt you can do that because I think they can match up with them on the outside in certain situations early on if they want to do that. But if I am killing Kenny Dillingham, I'm not going to allow that to happen. I'm going to spread Texas out. And I probably run fewer power packages at Texas because I want the guys, I want the girth and I want the mass out of the box as much as I can. I want these to come down, of course. Yeah.
Yeah, I totally agree. And again, Texas will have the beef up front to stalwart anything that we see from Arizona State. The question is, whenever they turn to pass, and look, I think Sam Leavitt's really good at protecting the football this year. That was one of the things I wanted to talk about as well as Arizona State, 2nd in the country per game in giveaways. They don't do it. They're 0.6 giveaways per game. He only has 5 interceptions on the season. We've talked about fumbles and how important it is for running backs to hold on the rock. Look, Scatterbo doesn't turn the ball over either for the most part, given his workload. Only 8 turnovers for Arizona State this year, but they likely, in my eyes, will be in a position to throw the ball a little bit more. And I do think that fits into Texas's game plan very much, especially if the Longhorns are able to get up early. You look at what their passing situation is like, and well, Rod, it's not the brightest, I'd say. Especially after you look at Jordan Tyson, he's sidelined for the rest of the year. Transfer from Colorado, originally from Allen, Texas. Right down the road from where I am now. But you look at what they've been able to do. 13 games played this year. 8 times your leading receiver was Jordan Tyson. 3 other times your leading receiver was Cam Scatterbo. That's 11 times that your leading receiver was either a guy that's not on the field or a running back. Who's going to be that guy for you? Well, in the Big 12 championship, it was Melquan Stovall. So worth keeping an eye on him, because Texas fans know that one big-time wide receiver can be a pain for you. But I don't think that this is going to be a wide receiving group that puts a lot of fear in the Texas defensive backs, especially when you consider their leading receiver coming into the game has about 340 yards.
Yep, totally agree with you. I mean, they want to run the rock, right? They run over 60% run rate. That's what they want to do. You take away the run, I'm with you. Without Jordan Tyson, I don't, and I'm not trying to be disrespectful, I don't see a threat against potentially the number one pass defense, the best pass defense in the country, which Texas has. And and to your point about the takeaways, interestingly enough, because I know some people have compared this team, Arizona State, to Vanderbilt a little bit. And Diego Pavia and Sam Levitt, and we'll talk about that too in a second. Vanderbilt has fewer turnovers than Arizona State. I believe they only have 7 on the season.
Wow.
Didn't Texas force 3 of those?
Forced 3 of them and got a turnover on down. So, yep, it felt like 4, but it was 3.
Yeah, so 3 of their 7 have come against Texas. So it is tough to protect the football against Clemson. Clemson was a really good team at protecting the football. It's tough to protect the football against Texas, not to have one of those key mistakes against so much talent. I didn't think about it, but to your point, though, they take care of the football. Texas, that's one of the Texas's, glaring flaws. They don't have a lot of them. Texas is 111th in the country in giveaways. They're at 23 of them on the season. The defense is so damn good, CJ, that rarely do the turnovers hurt you that much, because the defense usually stops it or forces a punt or forces a field goal. Usually that would be a death blow to a team with that many turnovers, but not to Texas. It's all because the defense is really good. But let's talk about Sam Levitt, because you're right. Because honestly, he's going to play some hero ball. Now, we told you guys that Cade Klubnik had it in him, and he had that it quality about him. And CJ, you called him a gamer. He certainly brought his A game against Texas and made some plays to keep his team competitive. Can Sam Levitt do that? Because I think they're going to be able to limit Scatterbo. I don't see anybody running the ball down Texas's throat, but Georgia at times was able to do that. Georgia's a different beast altogether, as we know. But I don't really see them being able to do that. I think he'll make some plays here and there, but will they consistently be able to run the rock 60% of the time and make basically have a balanced offense? I don't think so. I think Sam Levitt's going to have to win them. He'll win his fair share and go out there and help them try to win this game. I would just say this: I like him. It's hard to watch film and not like him, CJ.
No, I totally agree. Look, when kept clean on the year, he has about 2,000 passing yards, about 9 yards a clip, 19 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. So good pocket passer when kept clean, when given that opportunity to have a clean pocket. I don't know if that will be prevalent against the Longhorns. Of course, we've talked about it, Rod. Colin Simmons, Trey Moore, Barron Sorrell, Ethan Burke, pick your poison. Those guys are going to be in the backfield against an offensive line that maybe hasn't seen this level of depth and size and speed throughout an entire front 7 before. He does, if you do talk about turnovers, I know he's kept the ball relatively well this year, right? Only 5 interceptions on the season. 3 of them have come when under pressure. And what under pressure means is that there's a guy within basically an arm's reach of him. So again, Texas has to get pressure on the quarterback. This sounds like what you need to do every single game, but against this team specifically, who doesn't have that number 1 surefire target, it's going to make life very much a living hell for him.
Yeah, one thing I noticed, and I was doing some research on him, his dad played college ball. His dad played linebacker at BYU. His brother played in the league for like 5-6 years, had a little cup of coffee like I did. His brother played in the NFL for a few years. So he's a bit of an old soul. So even though he's only a redshirt freshman, his game is really mature, and that's why it's mature, because he basically grew up in it. It's been born and bred into him. Got really good football character. He took the money that he's made in jersey sales and he's donated back to their NIL fund. He lobbied to get his offensive line and Arby's NIL deal. Kind of where's the beef stuff? Man, the dude is like, he seems like he's legit. Like as a retro person, it's like he's one of them dudes, man. And like I said, I like his game. Last 6 games when they've gotten really hot, that's when he's played his best football. And he's playing. I'm not saying that he's better than Carson Beck or other quarterbacks Texas played. He's playing the position right now as well as any quarterback Texas has played, other than Cade Klubnik, because Cade Klubnik was playing at a really high level too. He's top 10 in passer rating. He's 9th in passer rating. Like you said, 24 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. And like I said, he's got, in the last 6 games, at least 5 of those games, he's got 3 touchdowns and 0 interceptions in 5 of those 6 games. Dude can, and he's a dual threat. He's averaging over 8 yards per scramble, got 47 scrambles. And to your point about him being under duress, so under pressure, this is what I noticed about him. So his yards per attempt, 9.6 yards per attempt on the season. But his yards per his ADOT is 9.6 on the season. But his ADOT under pressure is 15.5.
Wow.
So it tells me, if you look at his average time to throw, usually average is 3.01 seconds. His average time to throw under pressure is 4.25. What it tells you is that he extends the play and he looks downfield. He's looking for the scramble drill. He ain't looking to check it down. He's looking down. He's looking to scramble to run it, or he's looking downfield to scramble to make that scramble drill work. So I'm with you. Under duress, he can be a little dangerous if you don't corral him. You keep him in the pocket. I think Texas can feast because the offensive line, I think they haven't faced anything like this before.
No, I totally agree.
Besides of Texas. So, but I like the young man. I'm telling you, he's a baller. Y'all gonna see out there. He's gonna make some plays against the Texas defense, and you're gonna be surprised. One of the things schematically, though, let's talk about Kenny Dillingham's offense for a second before we flip the switch and go over to defensive side of the ball for Texas. I'm sorry, to the defensive side of the ball for Arizona State. They got a 40% play action pass rate, 39.1 according to Pro Football Focus. I don't know if Texas has played against a team with a higher play action pass rate than that.
So they're handing the ball or looking to hand the ball off almost on every single down, Rod. Every single snap is going to be some sort of look to the running back for a handoff, whether it be an RPO, whether it be an actual handoff or not. Those linebackers for Texas, eye discipline is going to be of the utmost importance.
Totally agree with you. Yeah, no doubt about that. And something else, throwing it out there, during their 6-game win streak, looking it up, their 4th downs, Kenny Dillingham has become a lot more aggressive on 4th downs. I believe 15 of their 22 4th downs that they've gone for in the last 6 games, basically all throughout the season, have come in the last 6 games. So, and he's 53% actually conversion rate on those 4th downs. 3rd down conversion rate, they're actually top 20 in the country. They're even better in 3rd down conversion rate in the last 6 games. They are at 52%. They were at 46% throughout the season, still one of the best in the country. That's going to be big. All right. 3rd and 4th down conversion. They'll be trying to stay on the field, keep the Texas offense off the field. So there'll be something to watch in this matchup. So that's the offensive side of the ball for them. Let's go over to the defensive side of the ball and the offense for Texas. To me, it's a really kind of simple question. If Texas can run the ball successfully against Arizona State, it's going to be a long day for them. That's the case for any Texas opponent. Texas has to take care of the football against this group. One thing I like about Arizona State's defense, they're not elite really in any aspect of the game, but they're opportunistic. They take the football away. They make plays on the football.
Yeah, they do. And look, Rod, you talked about how often Texas is kind of susceptible to turning the ball over. You can't do that anymore, right? These games mean much more. These defenses are more opportunistic. We saw Texas relatively took care of the ball against Clemson, right? It was just the one interception that hit a wide receiver in the chest. You got to come down with those. You can't give opponents those opportunities. I think Texas should be able to skate through a turnover or two against Arizona State. But I'm looking at that run game again because they figured it out. Anybody not named Georgia, Texas has figured out the run game. 3 of the last 4 games, they've rushed for 240 yards or more. And I think they're going to hit that mark again against Arizona State. Why do I think that? Oh, Rod, we talked about the Arby's where's the beef NIL deal on the offensive side of the ball, but that where's the beef is more coming from the coaching staff on the defensive side of the ball because they don't have it, right? You know, you look at who their interior defensive linemen are. Zach Swanson, familiar name, 6'4", 290 pounds. CJ Fight, 6'1", 295. Jeff Clark, 6'1", 285. Jacob Kungaika, 6'2", 290. Those are their 4 leading snap getters on the interior defensive line. Not a single one of them over 300 pounds, or at least not listed over 300 pounds. You look at the edges, they're 4 leading edge getters, 245 pounds, 240, 240, 270 is Justin Woltley out there at 270 pounds at the strong side defensive end spot. But Rod, you don't, of the 8 that I just mentioned right there, maybe only Woltley is something that you look at and say, yeah, okay, he's probably on the plus side weight size-wise when it comes to that given position. I know that if you were to stack the defensive linemen and stack the edge rushers from Texas and Arizona State, you'd see that stack start with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 with Texas size on each side comparatively. And I think right now when you look at the way that this offensive line has found its rhythm in that outside stretch zone, there's going to be a lot of movement right there from the Texas offensive line.
Yeah, no, we've talked about it. And I mean, most of your explosive plays, 70% of your explosive runs, I should say, in this 4-game stretch, the way you figured out your run game here, other than Georgia, have been that stretch, that outside zone. So we already know, and it's not a secret. Arizona State knows it too. You better stop that play. You can't stop that play. Georgia can stop that play. Georgia stopped that play. They stopped the counter. You can stop those 2 plays against Texas. Then you're going to force Texas. You're going to shrink their playbook considerably. Yes. But if Texas has the wide zone available, then the whole damn playbook's available for Sark. And that's bad news for any defensive coordinator. Out there too. The secondary, I mean, I was looking at just, and Xavier Alford actually is one of the players in the secondary safety, having a really, really good year. I think he's second on the team in tackles right now, if I'm not mistaken. Having a really good season. They got some players in the secondary that are playmakers that make plays on the football that really do. They got 5 guys in that back 7. 4 of them are DBs that have at least 2 interceptions on the season. Keith Abney, I believe, is leading in interceptions. He's got 7 PBUs, makes a lot of plays on the ball. Lawrence Welch is another guy. He's got 7 PBUs, 2 interceptions. Shamari Simmons, he's interesting to watch. He's got 3 forced fumbles, 3 PBUs. They just got some ball hawks back there, man. Guys that go to football. So they'll get beat. They will get beat. But then they come back and make plays on the ball, whether they be stripping the football, whether they be getting tipped interceptions. That's what I like about the group. That's what Texas has to avoid in this matchup. If Texas plays clean and they can run the football against Arizona State, it's going to be a long game for Arizona State's defense. Because I agree, they're just highly outmatched in terms of the physicality up front. Another guy to watch is Miles Rouser. He's the safety. He's leading them in tackles as well.
Yeah. They're saying there is interesting, Rod. Look, I pointed out last week before the Clemson game, Avion Terrell, probably the guy that Texas should target on the outside. He had 5 penalties coming into the game. He had 3 against Texas alone, plus Texas was able to find the end zone towards his side of the field as well. This week, you mentioned Keith Abney, and I was a big fan of his coming out of Waxahachie. But you look at his body of work this year, Rod, he's got the interceptions, but he's allowed 5 touchdowns this year. He has 7 penalties on the year. That's a guy that Texas can kind of pick on a little bit, whether it be a Matthew Golden, whether it be a Ryan Wingo. Look, Texas will have success offensively. It's all about protecting the football because I do think that run game will be there, but that pass game should have its opportunities as well, especially underneath when you let these guys get the ball and get going. One thing Arizona State does pretty well is the missed tackles. There aren't a whole lot of them. And in that sense, you have to look at where they're coming from. Miles Rouser on the outside, or at safety, Shamari Simmons at the outside cornerback spot, Keyshawn Elliott. Those are really the 3 guys that you can look at and say, all right, when you got the ball here and these are the guys next to you, expect that play to, extend a little bit because they've been proven so far this year to miss a few tackles.
That's a good point, though, about how they clean up the explosive plays, or at least they limit the explosive plays because they are actually a really good tackling team. They're 28th and 20 plus yard plays allowed on defense. But they are 70th in passing defense, so you can get the better of them. They don't make a lot of plays in the backfield, though. 101st in tackles for loss, 80th in sacks. Their rush defense actually is top 30, but I'm with you. They haven't faced the girth of a team like Texas, where I think they're really going to be vulnerable, and they really got to figure something out, and they got to close the talent gap is on third down. Third down in red zone, specifically for them. Third down defense. Red zone defense, they're 92nd in red zone defense. 101st in touchdown percentage allowed in the red zone. That's something they got to figure out. And they're 103rd down defense overall. So that situationally, they don't match up really well against Texas. And we'll see if they can somehow limit the Texas run game. But if they can force some turnovers, that'll be key. I will say I think that Kenny Dillingham's going to give Texas a ton of exotic looks, trick plays, flea flickers. You're going to get it early. Because I think he understands I got to hit him before the Sark run. Because we know the Sark run. If you want to watch enough film on Texas, you know Texas is going to pull away from it. Even did against Clemson, and Clemson came back to make it closer. But Texas is going to have a run where they pull away. They pull away from Arizona State. I don't know if Arizona State can close that gap.
Yeah,
I don't.
The juice isn't there. I agree.
Exactly. And I think Dillingham knows that he's a good young coach. That's why I think early on, CJ, you're going to get it all. You're going to get it all early on, the double pass, the reverse. I think you're going to get it. They had 2 weeks. How long to work on all this stuff? I think you're going to get a lot of exotic, boutique, trick plays, whatever you want to call them early on. And that's what I would do if I was telling him, because you got to find some way to close this talent gap, because everybody admits the talent gap is huge. Even you losing your top receiver, Texas has a huge advantage there. Only schematically, tactically, strategically can you try to close that gap.
I think you're absolutely right. And look, earlier in the year, how was the only time that you saw teams move the ball in chunk plays? Well, it was flea flicker from Michigan, right? You know, it was a flea flicker from Mississippi State, or some of those trick plays where it draws the defense completely off guard. That was really the only way that you saw big time plays allowed. I do wonder how often you'll see them, because you're going to need something if you're Dillingham. And I think that is, almost pitching a perfect game from a play caller's perspective.
Yeah, I like Dillingham, though. You'll probably see a lot more pistol than you've seen. He loves putting teams in the pistol. He's great at sequencing. I think his second downs are better than his first down calls. His second down calls are awesome. They're one of the best second down teams in terms of like play calling and design, in my opinion, in the country. We'll see if that holds when they play against Texas. That's a different beast altogether. All right. Thank you, CJ, for all of the nuggets and all of the knowledge. We appreciate that. Thank you guys out there for watching and for listening. And thank you to our friends over at Duck Camp as well, duckcamp.com. Go check out their new fall selection. They do a great job. I got a ton of Duck Camp stuff, and I'm getting even more Duck Camp stuff. Go check it out, duckcamp.com. They do a fantastic job of providing outdoor goods so you can outdoor good. All right, thank you, CJ. Until next time, and yes, there will be a next time for our game week preview. We'll be talking about the next upcoming opponent for the Longhorns. But until next time, for CJ and for our friends over at duckcamp.com, hook 'em horns.